the bell. Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Katie Greifeld. We're counting you down to the closing bell. Here to help take us beyond the bell. It's a global simulcast. We're joined right now by our friends Jess Menton and Madison Mills. Welcome to our audiences across Bloomberg Television, radio, and originals.
That is a huge compliment. I love both Maddie.
I love her.
Jess.
She's great. She's
fantastic.
incredible.
So thank you, Romaine.
I'm not sure who was talking, but go ahead, Maddie.
Ouch. S&P 500, even though it's kind of meh, not really moving. What is it, down about 2 points here, so call it unchanged. You still have most names in the index, about 364, Jess, that are higher today. So you go internally, you see a little bit of a different story.
And especially looking at this last half hour of trading, Carol and I were just talking about this. Obviously, that leg lower again when we're looking at technology, but then also more of those riskier corners of the market. You're looking at discretionary and then communication services, also a little bit lower as well when you're looking at more of the cyclicals or more of like the financials, the energies. Those were the ones that were gaining today.
And I mean, even this still, if you pick apart this market, there are some interesting things to look at. It really feels like we're at a standstill here, and you can see that on some of the volume data. The S&P 500 trading volume below the 20-day average to the tune of about 24%.
And I was looking at just the broader volume. So you go across all the tapes, A, B, and C here. Right now, we're tracking at about 9 billion shares traded. On average, we get up to around 11.5 billion. But this has basically been the trend for the last 3 days. We've been below 10 billion, and that appears to be the setup. I mean, some of that is a distortion from the holiday, of course, with Easter and Passover. But, of course, a lot of people just don't want to get out in front of some of the economic data and, more importantly, some of the earnings that we're about to get starting on Friday. The closing bells here in New York. The clapping begins. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, believe it or not, is going to finish the day higher. In fact, we've seen cyclicals really outperform the Dow now on a 4-day run, higher by 0.3% on the day. The S&P 500 looks like it's going to finish the day, we'll just call it unchanged right now, right around 4,100 and change. The NASDAQ Composite decidedly lower, down about 52 points or about 0.4% here on the day. And let's take a look at the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000, which was higher by more than 1% on the day, giving back some of those gains into the close, but still higher for a third straight day, up 0.8%.
Yeah, back to the banks I go. KBW Bank Index remain here at the close, up 1.3%. Katie, you're going to get into the groups, but Citi's up about 1.5%. B of A up almost 3% in today's trade.
Well, let's get to those groups. It's interesting. Even though you had the S&P 500 close pretty much exactly flat, completely unch on the day, you had more green than red if you look at the industry groups. Up top, you have consumer durables leading the way, I think the whirlpools of the world. Then you have the banks having a good day ahead of a very important start of earnings season. Then you go down the list, and this explains why we still did close on a little bit to the downside. You have software and services leading the leg lower, down 1.4%, and then you have semis off by 0.9%. Carol, this was one of the big outperformers, but coming under a little bit of pressure recently.
All right, so that's a look at the group breakdown. Let me get to some of the individual gainers on this Tuesday. CarMax, number one gainer in the S&P 500, up about 9.7% at its close today, beating Wall Street earnings estimates. The auto retailer squeezing more profit from each vehicle, although we talked with their David Welch and said the numbers overall really weren't good, but it's just this case of maybe we've hit the worst when it comes to CarMax. We are still seeing a sales drop and softening used car prices. WW International, formerly known as Weight Watchers, oh my God, this stock is up about 59% in today's session. Mind you, it's about a $6.55 a share stock, soaring.
Yeah.
Largest move since March.
60% here on the day. That's the biggest one-day gain, Carol Massar,
yes.
since when?
AKA Maddie Mills.
Last month.
Yeah. No, I know. It's tremendous.
I know. I was surprised when I saw that. Yeah.
I've talked with the CEO back in January at a dinner. It's just interesting. She's really trying to kind of move this company, I think, into its next chapter, thinking about technology, thinking about the platform. They also closed an acquisition of a telehealth provider. So really that holistic idea. What? That's
that's a big driver of this. And I think a lot of people are really, and maybe we should point out, I mean, her background, I mean, she was at Yahoo as an executive for years. So her background is really in that digital space.
Yeah, let's not forget Goldman Sachs also upgrading their rating on the stock to buy from neutral, following the acquisition. All right, so big standouts out there. And then we want to get to Tupperware. This was kind of a pandemic darling. It's a $1.30 stock. I know that. It's a very small cap. Dropped a record 49% yesterday. It's up about 5% today. And we know that this company has hired some financial advisors. So, people just keeping an eye to kind of figure out what comes next. You're a big Tupperware user, are you not, Romaine?
Yeah, I don't think we use the Tupperware brand, but yes, we have a lot of containers.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have the decliners, the losers today, but I'm going to start off with looking over at Moderna. So that stock dropping around 3%, and among the worst decliners in the S&P 500 as well as the Nasdaq 100. So what happened here was it did push back plans when it came to experimental flu shot, and it did have a setback due to a lack of enrolled cases in this late-stage trial. So they did say it didn't accumulate enough data to determine the efficacy when it came to this study, but the company did say it would advance another candidate. Another one that I wanted to point out is looking at what's happening with Tilray. So that falling around 8% today. So the cannabis producer did report a wider than expected loss, but another big thing that was driving this, the company did announce the acquisition of a smaller Canadian rival when it came to Hexo. It's a deal that was worth around $56 million, but the problem there, it disappointed investors because the offer price was actually less than the stock's value prior to the announcement. So when you're looking at U.S. listed shares of Hexo, those tumbling more than 26% today. And then finally, I have to point out, we were talking about technology earlier, looking at what's happening with Microsoft. So that stock down a little over 2%. So what happened there, UBS did warn about its Azure cloud computing business. So you are seeing that also weigh on other cloud stocks, even say Amazon today down about 2%.
And I'll just add one, Adtran, a small company, ADTN, down about 20% here on the day. There's been a lot of concerns about some of these network equipment providers here and some of the destocking that we're seeing there. Let's go back to the Treasury space. It was somewhat of a dull day in that space, but probably the key part of the story here is a two-year yield still holding at about 4% here, up only about 2 basis points here on the day. That gives you an idea right now of the mindset of some investors when it comes to the Fed and its fight against inflation.
Yeah, and we earlier talked about, the crypto space, right? You got Bitcoin up, closing above 30,000, and you look at things like Coinbase Global up more than 6%. So again, investors, feeling comfortable, Katie, to get back into this space.
And it's been interesting to see that the equities have been outperforming the crypto-linked stocks, if you will. The best performing non-leveraged ETF in the first quarter tracked Bitcoin miners, which is just wild to me. I will say, though, that hasn't been met with any enthusiasm if you look in the flows. So who's coming back into this space? I'm not quite sure.
And I'm glad you brought up flows, Katie, because since today is Tuesday, we did get the client flows data from Bank of America. So we did see last week, actually, that their clients did withdraw more than $2 billion. And what happened was a lot of it came with real estate shares. Those saw the largest outflows since July 2021, while communication and staple stocks were actually the only two areas seeing inflows. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic with that latest data.
Yeah, it is Tuesday, Jess. Thanks for bringing that up. It's also National Pet Day here. We should also point that out as well. I am curious, though. I mean, we talk about this idea of flows. I mean, and I think it was the Bank of America data and obviously it's backward looking here, but the outflows that we saw out of equities, and of course, a lot of the positioning in the CFTC data that we got last week still showing that at least the big speculators are still net short this market.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. And I think all the kinds of flows within the market in terms of kind of understanding maybe where we go from here is going to be really crucial as we, the data points I feel like are somewhat conflicted, whether it's on the economy and the outlook, but watching the investment flows, the money flows is
Carol,
really
have you seen the trailer for this new Barbie movie?
What are you saying?
There's a new blockbuster movie. It's like Ryan Gosling, Margot Robbie. That's the heavy hitters there. Will Ferrell, all directed by Greta Gerwig. We were talking a little bit earlier. We had a guest on.
You guys did box office.
Yeah, we had Chad Bynum on, and he really we were talking about the rom-com Super Mario Brothers, and we were just kind of talking about the big releases coming forward early in this year because we saw a lot of those stocks rally hard yesterday, and most of them were up again today.
Well, it's, again, it's this reset. Can I just go back there and just talk about, we're trying to figure out what our way forward is. People are actually going back to the theaters. So
you haven't seen the trailer?
Yeah, she didn't answer.
I have seen it.
What was the last movie you saw?
No, it's like the giant Barbie. I have seen it. It's really well done.
Well, they're humans, right? It's live action.
It's live action.
It looks really good. I'm really psyched for it. The trailers have been really good. I've seen a lot of memes circulating on the internet. So whoever's handling their marketing is clearly doing a good job.
Great
Hasn't
trailer.
reached Carol Master yet, though.
No, I watched it.
She's always a little
Also, Ryan Gosling, you can't go wrong
Yeah.
with that, right?
I feel like I'm at Thanksgiving dinner with the family. Like, it's just pick on me. Just go ahead.
It is going to be interesting to watch those movie theater stocks from here. We know that they got a big boost to start the week. A lot of enthusiasm over the Mario movie. Whether that's sustainable, I mean, we'll see.
Who's been to a movie lately? Have you
Well, yeah, we all have, Carol. We all have lives. I am curious, though. I was looking at that. Do you know this is going to be rated PG-13?
The Barbie movie?
Yeah.
I believe it.
Is that good or bad? Is that boring or is that good?
Well, I'm just saying, it's just don't take your small kids if you have them.
No.
So, okay. We can leave it there,
Barbie
Carol.
and Ken, they date. What can I do? All right, we're going to get into trouble.
Jess, are you going to be back tomorrow? Because I need to write this down if you will.
Jess and Maddie will be back tomorrow. Looking forward to that one.
All right, see you, Maddie.
All right, that's a wrap, guys. Our cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. We call it Beyond the Bell. We call it kind of crazy Beyond the Bell, but we will see you again, same time, same place tomorrow.